you've seen gambling evolve. You watch all these sports things, and on the bottom, right, they have the ticker with the odds. Make him a Hall of Famer while he's alive. Every year, the MLB releases its Hall of Fame ballot, and there's one person we believe is always missing from that ballot that should be in there.
So the MLB Hall of Fame has the best players who've ever played in the MLB. That would make sense, right? But the problem is that we're missing one person, and I think everyone talks about this every year, and we're going to talk about it now. And I think the one person that should go into the Hall of Fame that isn't now is, of course, Pete Rose. Pete Rose, arguably the best hitter who's ever played baseball ever in the major leagues. He has the most hits. Charlie Hustle, right? That's his nickname. And just an amazing player to watch. And it's kind of, it's actually very sad that he's not in the Hall of Fame. It's something that we talk to our dad about all the time too. He's one of Dad's favorite players. You know, the old time generation, whatever. He was fun. I still go back now and watch some of his old games. And you know who he reminds me of a little bit? Bryce Harper. Like just giving it all out, throwing your body, getting dirty, doing all that stuff. But unfortunately, till this day, obviously, he's not inducted into the Hall of Fame, even though this is something interesting. We went to the Hall of Fame together a few years ago, and they do have a lot of his memorabilia and stuff in the Hall of Fame. So you can see his cleats and jersey or whatever, but he's not in the plaque. He's not where he needs to be. And I think that's personally wrong. I think that he did what he did in the past, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But again, he's the greatest hitter, one of the greatest hitters to ever live and play baseball, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. How do you feel about that?
I agree with you. Let's take a look at how Pete Rose got into this whole mess to begin with. So when it comes to Pete Rose, we can't forget, right, that Pete Rose is being kept out of the Hall of Fame because he did agree to a lifetime ban in 1989 after its investigation for Major League Baseball by a lawyer, John Dowd, found that Rose did place numerous bets on the Cincinnati Reds to win from 1985 to 1987 while he played for and he managed the team. So you had this, you know, conflict of interest. Obviously, gambling was not part of the game as it is today, but he also was part of the team. So you see that conflict of interest and tarnishing the integrity of the game. So he has this love-hate relationship with the MLB, and it's been a long-standing thing. And even to this day, based on this Associated Press news article here, current commissioner says Robert Manfred has no intention of altering Pete Rose's lifetime ban from baseball, and said the sports commercial deals with gambling companies have no impact on the status of his career as hits leader. So here's the irony of the situation, right? This happened a while ago, and you've seen gambling evolve in the sports world, especially here in the United States, where it's becoming a lot more acceptable. Granted, arenas, apps, all that stuff, the websites or Vegas, it's obviously not people playing in the game, but it's much more acceptable than it was back in the days when Pete Rose was banned from baseball and obviously reprimanded for his actions. When I look at this, that irony to me is just one of those things where if you're going to bend, if you're going to budge, if there's a day and age where I think people would be more forgiving than any other time, I feel like it's now, because gambling is just, now you watch ESPN, you watch all these sports things, and on the bottom, right, they have the ticker with the odds and all this stuff. It's just like, go ahead. I read an article the other day that apps and all the websites and everything had record profits in 2023. It was $11 billion. It was up 45% versus the year before. So gambling is basically ingrained in sports now, like it wasn't in the past when Pete Rose was in his prime or was a manager for the team. I'm not trying to say we have to do it because gambling is becoming what it is. I think no matter what, Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. If you ask him now, he's definitely regretful for what he did, and he acknowledges his mistakes. I think early on he was someone who denied everything, and he was like, everybody's against me. But as he's aging here, I think he's become softer, and he's obviously realized his mistakes. The MLB should make the exception for him and make him a Hall of Famer. And here's the only thing I would add to that. Make him a Hall of Famer while he's alive.
Yeah, you got my. That's what I was gonna say.
I feel like I feel like this is a plan here, and I think it's really messed up if that is the plan, is to wait until Pete Rose passes away to make him a Hall of Famer, because then he couldn't obviously make that speech. He couldn't get those photos up there on the podium, and if that's what they're trying to do, I think that's really a terrible thing and a bad look on the game of Major League Baseball and the Hall of Fame to do that. So that's the only other thing I would say, is make him a Hall of Famer, and make him a Hall of Famer while he can speak and he can walk and talk and enjoy the fact that he was one of the greatest hitters that we've seen. He's the all-time hit king.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. That's exactly what I was going to say, that they're going to pull the old, we'll let him in when we're ready, and they're going to be ready when he passes away, like the year after, a couple months after, or something like that. And it's going to suck. Obviously his family's going to probably be there to, accept it and all that stuff, but it's not the same. It's not the same as him being there and accepting it and doing the speech and all that. Like you said, he made a mistake, a bad mistake. He bet people are gonna hate me for this, but at least he was betting for them to win. Like, betting for them to lose is worse, because that means you're trying to give up the games. At least you want to win, but you shouldn't do it in general. But nowadays, like you said, sports gambling is a lot more accepted. Not betting on your team though, like if you're the coach, that's totally different. But we live in a different culture now. Again, gambling is the reason why all these fantasy sports and things are blowing up, because of gambling. And I think it's time to obviously let him in. And what's also interesting as well is that we put this post on our Facebook, on one of the groups that we're in, called Sports Card Nonsense. It's a great group, and a lot of people had a lot of things to say. It had over 600, almost 700 comments, and a lot of people, if you look at the comments, I would say the majority were actually saying to let him in, that they agree. There was good arguments against it as well, but a majority of the people that I saw wanted Pete Rose to get in, because when you think of baseball, you think of, Pete Rose is one of the faces that I think of when I think of baseball. Good, hard-nosed, dirty baseball, dirty, uniforms, and just trying your best. Remember the All-Star game, what he did to the catcher, truck the catcher, trying to get to home plate. You don't see stuff like that anymore. And I'm not saying that's right, but that's just the mentality that he played with. And again, I would love to see him in the Hall of Fame, besides, what he did. So you could talk about some of the stats right there that speak for themselves.
Hall of Fame worthy, over 300 batting average, hit king with over 4,200 hits, and a WAR of pretty much 80. We know that he's a Hall of Famer any which way you look at Pete Rose. It's just a matter of looking beyond some of those flaws. Everybody's human. Everybody makes their mistakes and things like that. And as time passes, sometimes it heals those wounds. Can Major League Baseball look beyond some of the things that he's done in the past, and maybe some of the ways that he's sort of talked bad about them, look beyond that for the betterment of what should be a really representative Hall of Fame of who the best players were for these different times of the game. So you let us know in the comments, should Pete Rose be allowed into the Hall of Fame, or should he continue to be banned?